After my long trips going down south to see the Toronto Auto Show, I have to ask myself, why do I do it, and why do a lot of these other people go down and experience the auto show? Now, we've uncovered why we do this in a previous podcast. But our other question about auto shows is, what auto shows are the biggest out there? And how long have they been around for? Like, you get it, the Toronto Auto Show isn't exactly new, but isn't exactly that old. So what is the oldest auto show? We know why they exist and what purpose they serve in the industry that's founded around it. But which ones have been around the longest? Today, AutoLooks is going to be taking a look at the top auto shows globally. Welcome back to the AutoLooks podcast. I'm your host, as always, the doctor to the automotive industry, Mr. Everett J, coming to you from our host website at AutoLooks.net. If you haven't been there, stop by, check it out, read some of the reviews, check out some of the ratings, go to the Corporate Links website page, big or small, we have them all. Car companies from around the globe, all available in one direct location. That is the AutoLooks.net website. The AutoLooks podcast is brought to you by Ecom Entertainment Group and distributed by Podbean.com. If you would like to get in touch with us, send us an email over at email@autolooks.net. So like I said in the beginning, what are the top auto shows around the world? Like, a lot of people could think of a few of them. Well, there's SEMA, there's New York, there's one in Japan, Germany, Geneva. Yeah, we all know Geneva. But what other ones are super big? What ones in the industry make a standpoint? Car companies have specific auto shows that they cannot miss. Now, we get it. All big auto shows are used to showcase new cars, new technology, and new ideas, showcased through brand new products or concept or prototype cars. That's their sole purpose, to gauge interest into those vehicles and to see if those things can become production-ready products for a market that demands it. But in all reality, there's tons of auto shows. Now, you go back to my early days of auto show hopping, the late 90s and into the early 2000s, there were auto shows everywhere. Like, you go to the AutoLooks.net website and you go to the auto show tab underneath the corporate links, and you'll find auto shows from all over the place, like Seattle, Denver, Chicago, Portland, Oregon. Like, even in Canada, we got Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg, Quebec City. They all have their own minuscule auto shows. Even my home city in Sudbury had an auto show for about 3 years in the early 2000s. That's how big the market was, and they really wanted to showcase the people. We get it, the internet is alive and was around, but allowing people to get into a brand new automobile and completely experience it at a show in their home city is something amazing. But if you're somebody who wants to see the best of the world, you have to be at specific auto shows. If you've gone back and, like myself, and are a major automotive movie buff, and you've watched the movie Lamborghini about Ferruccio, what auto show does he want his Lamborghini ready for this year? Not next year, this year. And it has to be there because Ferrari's going to be showing the new Ferrari. I need to show them the new Lamborghini to go up against the Ferrari. Geneva. Geneva was the show that he had to have it at because Geneva is one of the biggest ones in the world. Even to this day, the Geneva International Motor Show from Geneva, Switzerland, a country that doesn't even have a big auto industry, Switzerland. Think about it. When you think of automobiles, you don't think of Switzerland for cars. You think of Sweden, maybe. You know, a lot of people get those two confused. Switzerland is chocolate. It is completely surrounded by other countries. Sweden is a Nordic region which builds Volvos, Saabs, Spyker, Koenigsegg. Like, come on. So you don't think of an automobile industry when you think of it. But Geneva prides itself on its auto show in Geneva, Switzerland. From 1905 to 2019, and then again in 2024, in March this time, it has hosted all major internal combustion engine models available in 1905. So when they opened their show in 1905, they showcased to the world every single internal combustion engine model available to their marketplace and, in some cases, global marketplaces in one specific location. But why did Geneva do this? Well, that's got to be like one of the earliest ones. No, it was not. 1905 was not the first auto show. The first auto show was held in October of 1898. And of all places in the world do you think the automobile would have its first show? You think America, or you think Germany, or you think Britain. Those are the pioneers of the automotive industry. But there is another country that was a big pioneer in the early days and was also one of the biggest pioneers for the automotive racing industry as well. That is France. If you didn't know that, France is one of the pioneering countries of the world for the automotive industry. Hell, one of the first dedicated mobile units was developed for the French army in the late 1700s, a steam-powered motorized machine, essentially an early day to a tank, which would later form the basis of steam engines and tractors. So Paris, France. France is one of the early pioneers of the automotive industry. And the Paris Motor Show, or Mondial de l'Automobile, previously called the Salon de l'Automobile. Okay, I'm not too good with French. You think I would be, living in Canada and having learned it all the way up to grade 9, but that was over 20 years ago. And my kids would probably be able to say it a lot better than me. The first one was held in 1898 in October. It was an annual automotive show. All the way up until 1976, the Paris Motor Show went to a biannual every 2 years. It was founded by Jules Albert de Lyon of the Dion Auto Company and winner of the very first automotive race, which he won with a steam-powered vehicle. Now we get it. Today, Dion Auto no longer exists, but they won the very first automotive race, which is held in France, and he won it with a steam-powered vehicle. He wanted to showcase to the world the automotive industry and wanted to bring the automobile industry not just to the top-tier luxury makes and the automotive racers of the world, but he wanted to showcase to everyday people, this is the technology that's going to be taking over for your horse and buggy. And that's why he founded the Salon de l'Automobile. Jules Albert de Dion founded the very first automotive show, 1898. Of all times, October. You'd think he would have done it a little bit earlier, like September or August. But it's October. That's the time a lot of people are going to fall fairs. So it was actually a very smart marketing play by him. You can think, it was founded, the first automotive car show was founded by a race car driver, of all things. From a technology that no longer exists in the automobile industry, a steam-powered car. Yeah, think about it. The internal combustion engine did not fully take over as the main power unit of automobiles until the late 20s. Up until that time, electric and steam surpassed the internal combustion engine. Kind of hard to believe, right? But with the Rockefellers making tons of gasoline and making tons of money off of it, trust me, they made sure that the internal combustion engine was the winner in the fight for our automobiles. After that, you move on to one of the other biggest automotive shows. The first major automobile show in North America was not Detroit. Now, Detroit is the first one of the year for the American marketplace, only having the Consumer Electronics Show just before it. So Detroit's kind of been pushed off because now there's more technology in the automobile industry, but we'll get into that after. No, the very first major auto show in North America was the New York International Auto Show. It was held in New York, United States, in 1900, and it still happens to this day. The New York Auto Show goes on in either late March or early April, in 950,000 square feet of space, and has been happening since 1900. This year, when they open their doors to the New York Auto Show, it'll be the 126th anniversary of the New York Auto Show. Even though it wasn't the first, because the very first one was held 2 years before that in Paris. But the New York Auto Show is one of the earliest pioneers and the earliest in Western civilization. To this day, New York still holds the title of being one of the premier locations to showcase new products for this year in the North American marketplace, surpassing even Detroit, which happens 2 months previous to it. Now, we already talked about Geneva from 1905 to 2019, and then again in 2024 in March. It hosted all internal combustion engines. Now, it was canceled during COVID from 2020 to 2023 and then canceled again in 2025. Today, Geneva no longer exists due to a lack of interest. The promoters of the Geneva Auto Show, even though Ferruccio showed his very first Lamborghini there to showcase it over top of the new Ferrari, Qatar is now where its promoters push. Geneva, Switzerland is no longer an automotive capital for brand new high-end and premier sports cars. Now, that actually is given to another location, which we'll get to a little later. Now, After 1905, we see Los Angeles. Now, why is Los Angeles so important? It happens in the fall, and it also happens in a sunny location. The Los Angeles Auto Show has been going on since 1907. So 7 years after the New York Auto Show, Los Angeles Auto Show started. You got to remember, the automobile industry didn't even exist in Los Angeles in 1907. Remember, their industry really didn't start taking off until the 50s, but they still had an auto show. It was held in January until 2006, when it was changed to mid to late November. Now, until 2006, the Los Angeles Auto Show was essentially just to showcase new vehicles coming out. This resulted in 2 shows in 2006, with the second one celebrating the 100th anniversary of the show. They used 760,000 square feet of open space and was first held at the Morley Skating Rink until 1910 to a big top tent and Fiesta Park. From 1952, they finally saw the introduction of international vehicles at the LA Auto Show. But when they moved it to November in the fall, it took over for New York and Detroit as the #1 auto show in North America. It's where all new car companies go to showcase their new vehicles for the North American marketplace. We're talking Canada, US, Mexico, and even Central America locations like Honduras, Ecuador, and even Panama. This is where you showcase all of those vehicles. Los Angeles, California, USA. It's being held in November. All of those vehicles are production ready. Who wants to wait until January to see the new cars? Let's go to LA when it's hot, it's sunny, it's the fall. Unfortunately, it's really close to Christmas, so not a ton of people can go there, but all new products that are about to come out to the marketplace are already available for showcase, and by November is when Los Angeles realized car companies are available to showcase those new vehicles. So when they moved it in 2006, they did it to essentially grab the spotlight away from Detroit. They told Detroit, fuck you, we're taking the title of the premier auto show for North America. You've held it for too long. You took that glory away from New York because New York's too far into the year. Detroit is at the beginning of the year. Well, now Los Angeles happens before the year even begins. We showcase 2026 cars in 2025. So by the time they hit the floor in Detroit, they've already been showcased. So nobody cares. It was a sad day in 2006. Detroit, Michigan. Essentially, the Detroit Auto Show, or as it's called, the North American International Auto Show, Detroit Auto Show, in Detroit, Michigan, USA, was essentially held in 1899, making it the second auto show in history behind Paris. The reason why it doesn't hold the title of the first American auto show is because it was essentially just a presentation by auto dealers in a field and wouldn't be held annually until 1907. So New York beats it because it became a dedicated auto show, originally held at the Waldorf Astoria, of all places. Now it's not, but that's where it once was held, the New York Auto Show. Now, in 1899, William E. Metzger created the Detroit Auto Show. This would make it the second auto show of its kind in history after the Paris Auto Show in 1898. Unfortunately, it wasn't until 1907 that the present auto show existed, except for a time between 1941 and 1953 due to wartime efforts and a downturn in the American auto industry. It is held in Detroit and held by the Detroit Auto Dealers Association. It has been held annually in January, except in 2021, 2022, and 2023. This was due to a possible September change and COVID cut into the show. It was essentially replaced by what they called the Motor Bella show. A change back to January dismissed the 2024 show, whereas January 2025, the show stepped in. It is currently held in Huntington Place, or Cobo Hall, since 1965. But back in 1957, they saw the introduction of the original international car makers. Like we said, in 1999, it became the second auto show in history after Paris. But Detroit did not come back until 1907 as a yearly auto show. It was essentially just a showcase of a few new vehicles, kind of like GM's Motorama. Yeah, GM used to have its own dedicated auto show that went around called the GM Motorama. And that's essentially where they showcased the original Corvette. Have you ever seen that commercial? I dream of a Corvette. Yeah, beautiful blonde woman just standing up looking out. 1907 was essentially the first year it became a permanent fixture in Detroit. Which really doesn't make it the second auto show, but in all around it was. Shanghai Automobile. Now we're going to give you some dates of Auto Shanghai. Auto Shanghai has actually been around since 1985, only going on odd years. This is because it shares the spotlight with Beijing. In China, their auto industry, ever since the 1980s, has been kind of knit and pick. It hasn't really exploded until about 15 years ago, when the industry and the Chinese market really started exploding. Up until that point in time, only state-run companies were there, and they only utilized specific auto shows. It wasn't a big yearly thing. So Shanghai did it on odd number years, and Beijing did it on even number years. That's why it's essentially the Shanghai Beijing Auto Show. Now, Shanghai Auto Show started in 1985 as the Shanghai International Automobile Industry Exhibition and became China's oldest exhibition and is now one of the most important international exhibitions out there, but still running on odd number years, where Auto China Beijing started in 1990 being the even years. The biannual, which Beijing takes over the other years, is held in late April or May. So if you can't think of it like this year, it's 2026. So the auto show will be Auto China this year, held in Beijing. That'll happen just after New York. Next year, 2027, it'll be in Shanghai at Auto Shanghai, just happening after New York. So once you're done at New York, you fly over to China to go to Shanghai. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to go to see it. And it showcases all of the best products from the Chinese marketplace. And considering the fact that the Chinese automotive marketplace is expanding exponentially right now, it is one of the top auto shows to go to see new technology at, with the only other show that has greater technology at it being the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, which we'll get to momentarily. The Consumer Electronics Show originally started in June 24th, 1967, was first held in New York City. It now falls in January, right around the same time as the Detroit Auto Show. Now, the reason why the Consumer Electronics Show has become such a staple in the auto industry is because it's where new technology is showcased. And up until about 2008, technology really didn't have to be showcased. We would showcase, the new CD players, new sound systems in our vehicles at Auto Show. But now you're showcasing heads-up displays, new batteries. So the Consumer Electronics Show, up until about 2016, wasn't really for the automotive industry. It was for electronics and electronics only. You would see companies like Alpine, JBL, all there, working with Pioneer and LG, showcasing brand new technology for the global marketplace. But now that these companies are so tied into the automotive industry, kind of like Xiaomi, Huawei, and even Apple and Sony, how Sony has their own division in the car industry tied in with Honda, Afilia. Yeah, I feel ya. It's not that great of a design. That's how I feel ya. So that show started showcasing. This year, Dream, which is one of the number one producers in the world of robot vacuums, wants to get into the automobile industry. And instead of waiting until Shanghai, or essentially this year, Beijing Auto, to showcase the new cars, they brought them to the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. It shows new technology for everything, but it's now become a staple in the auto industry, pushing out the Detroit Auto Show, where in the United States, only New York, Los Angeles, and SEMA still play a vital role in the automobile industry, because Consumer Electronics Show has literally kicked Detroit in the ass and pushed it out of the limelight of the global market show. My favorite time of the year is always October, November. I hate when it gets cold. Like, literally, I usually prefer spring and summer. I like the warm. But when it comes to auto shows, October, November is my favorite, because you get the Los Angeles Auto Show, and then right after that, you get one of the most immersive, amazing auto shows in the world. And there's only one other one that surpasses this. The SEMA Auto Show, the Specialty Equipment Market Association, formed in 1963, now has over 10,000 members and is growing annually. This show has been held annually since 19th November and was first held in the basement of Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. It was then moved to Anaheim in 1974, and then in 1984, they moved SEMA to its permanent location it has now in Las Vegas. but now it is the SEMA AI and APPA show. 1983, they first allowed import parts section to be added. And in 1992, it became a week-long aftermarket event with over 1 million feet of space and 11,000 booths showcasing the top tier of North American and Asian, hell, even European, global aftermarket industry specialty equipment market association. The SEMA Auto Show is one of the top 2 aftermarket shows in the world. When you consider it on a global scale, the SEMA Auto Show is number 1. And in the aftermarket industry, there's only one other show that shows more about the aftermarket industry than SEMA, that being the Tokyo Auto Salon. Yes, the International Auto Aftermarket Expo in Tokyo, Japan. Now, that show is not on our main list because that show only showcases the best of Japanese markets. But it shows more of the aftermarket industry than anywhere else. It's where the aftermarket industry essentially is the biggest in Japan. Next to that, California. In early January as well, you can also find the Tokyo Auto Salon or Japan Mobility Show. Now, this is either annual or biannually since 1954. Annual from 1954 to 1973 and then 2000 to 2005. Biannual from 75 to 99 or 2007 to present. Usually held between October and November along with the SEMA Auto Show. But the Tokyo Auto Salon or Japan Mobility Show showcases every single thing in the mobility world, not just automobiles. We're talking about scooters and wheelchairs as well. Any mobility device. But being in Japan, it only showcases the best of the Asian marketplaces, not a global scale. See, Consumer Electronics Show, SEMA, and even Paris were global automotive shows. Even China has now become more global. But the Auto Salon and the Auto Expo in Japan showcase to us Japanese culture, which is one of the biggest in the automotive industry, from key cars all the way up to supercars, are showcased in Japanese culture. They hit every part of the automotive market in one automotive market. One of the only places in the entire world that does that. And that's why the Auto Expo and their mobility show are top automotive shows to go to. The next one is one of the youngest auto shows in our list. Started only in 2004, the Top Marks of Monaco is a high-end auto show for new supercars and top-tier one-offs. Essentially, Top Marks Monaco is what came in to replace the Geneva Auto Show. Geneva is where you used to go to see these high-end luxury cars and supercars. No, Top Marks Monaco is where you now go to see these. If you create a brand new supercar, you need to go to the city, essentially a city-state, Monte Carlo, and showcase your products to the ultra-wealthy. In an ultra-wealthy climate is the only place you're ever going to make tons of sales. When HTT in Canada created the plethora, they needed to go to Top Marks Monaco, not Toronto or Montreal auto shows. That's not where you're going to make your sales. You're going to make them in Monaco. That is where you make or break brand new supercars and top tier one-off vehicles. Top Mark Monaco. Now, as India is an ever-growing marketplace, the Delhi Auto Show, held at the Bharat Mobility Global Expo, or Auto Expo, as it's called, is a biannual auto show happening since 1986, early to mid-January in New Delhi, India, basically showcasing all new products and technology from the Indian marketplace to the global presence. You have to remember, India is a now burgeoning automotive marketplace. So the Auto Expo in Delhi is a premier auto show that you must go to if you want to see what's going on in a global marketplace. Another one that's kind of hit and miss and plays itself on a biannual service. It's held annually, but on a biannual services. Frankfurt. The International Motor Show of Germany, the IAA Mobility, has actually been held longer than Paris. It's an annual show since 1897. Now, its first show only had 6 cars, so it essentially was almost like a tiny little showcase of automobiles. It really wasn't until early 1900s that the Frankfurt Auto Show really started taking off. It was the first dedicated automotive show in the world by 1 year, surpassing Paris Paris, but it was only a showcase of a very limited amount of vehicles, where Paris was the auto industry. So by auto show standards, it is not the original, but eventually became one of the biggest ones out there. Now, today, transportation is every even year, with mobility added every odd year. See, the Frankfurt Auto Show is essentially a car show. It's a biannual car show. So you get new cars this year. And next year, it goes to Hanover, well, essentially now Munich, for the commercial vehicle show. They don't showcase brand new products every single year. It's brand new commercial products next year and brand new residential products this year. Essentially, this started happening in 1989. The show was split up due to high demand and attendance. They needed to break it up because they had too many people coming into the show. So now, between Frankfurt, Munich, and Hanover, the Frankfurt or IAA Mobility Show is now held. Great show if you want to see some amazing automotive. The last one on a global scale that you need to get to is Guangzhou. Auto Guangzhou, or the Guangzhou International Motor Show in China, happens between November and December, one of the last auto shows of the year. Held since 2003, basically showcase what's coming up in the Chinese industry. This is where a lot of car companies are now showcasing. But being in November and December, it's not at peak travel season for people wanting to go to auto shows. So it showcases a few vehicles, becomes a global standard for companies that want to get their vehicles out and known of before the year even arrives. But if you really want to see the best in the industry from China, you got to go to either Shanghai or Beijing, depending on what year it is. Guangzhou is their main auto show for the Chinese marketplace, where Shanghai and Beijing are the ones that showcase more of the auto industry for you. Now, essentially, I've gone through all of these big auto shows, and most of them, North America, Europe, or Asia. There's none really that are big in African marketplaces. Not really a lot of big ones in the Middle Eastern marketplace. Now, Qatar is taking over for Geneva. And in Oceania, you get the Malaysian Auto Show, which is one of the biggest ones in that marketplace, but really only showcases vehicles for the Oceania marketplace. Australia, when it once had its own auto industry, Melbourne Auto Show was one of the biggest around. But unfortunately today, without an existing automotive industry in the Australian continent, they don't really have a global presence in the automotive industry. For myself, I go to Canada's premier automotive show. That is the Canadian International Auto Show, held every February since 1974 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's used to replace the CNE's auto exhibition that once existed before. The Toronto Auto Show, or Canadian International Auto Show in Toronto, is the #1 auto show in the country because Ontario and in a surrounding area within 3-hour duration all the way around the Toronto vicinity is the automotive industry of the country of Canada. Unfortunately, Canadian-made products are really never showcased at the Toronto International Auto Show. You may get one there. I think we had Campania this year. If you want to see Canadian products, you actually have to go to the Montreal Auto Show. It is bigger size and showcases more of Canadian content than Toronto, but it is not the premier auto show of the Canadian marketplace. So like I said, Toronto is essentially where they get showcased, even though Montreal happens earlier, but Montreal happens in the worst month. January, you have to compete with both Detroit and the Consumer Electronics Show, which really isn't that great. So for myself, like I said, I go to the Toronto Auto Show. I've been to the Montreal Auto Show, and I used to always go to the Detroit Auto Show until they had a lot of those issues, and crossing the border became more of a pain in the ass. So today, I really don't go to Detroit. The last time I was actually there is the year they gave away those Burgo Ford GT cars that you can build with your child and take home. That was the last year I was in Detroit. By then, their auto show was kind of tapering off. Not a lot of brand new concepts. For myself, that's why I like going to the auto shows. This past year, 2026, when I went to the Toronto Auto Show, I saw 2 concepts. Now, Toronto used to be pretty lag when it came to concepts. I was lucky if I saw about 10 or 11. Where Detroit, you could see 20 or 30. Last time I was at Detroit, there was 12. And this year in Toronto, there was 2. Concepts are becoming a main thing that only the biggest auto shows out there. So Los Angeles, New York, Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Frankfurt, and Paris. They're really the only auto shows that ever get showcased all these brand new products. But now with ourselves being such immersed in social media and online, auto shows are slowly becoming a thing of the past, with only a very few amount of them being the main location that brand new vehicles are showcased to the global market. Now, you can just do it online. Everyone can see it all in one shot. Hell, Tesla has never showcased a brand new vehicle in an auto show. They've done their own media presentations. And that's how a lot of car companies are starting to go at it. So for myself, back in the early 2000s, globe-trotting around and going to some of the biggest auto shows in history was a dream of mine. I would still love to do it today, but unfortunately, the auto show is starting to disappear. For myself, it's one of those things that I'm actually sad to see disappear. And I hope they can come back because I love being able to go and sit and feel those automobiles firsthand. And trust me, seeing them in person is so much better than just seeing them in images online. The auto shows, they've been around essentially since 1897. It's a long time. And with that, can the auto show hold on for another 100? Well, only time will tell. So if you like this podcast, please like, share, or comment about it on any major social feeds or streaming sites you've found the AutoLooks podcast on. Like us, share us, comment about us, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your well-wishers all about the AutoLooks podcast. And after that, stop by the website, read some of the reviews, check out some of the ratings, go to the Corporate Links website page, big or small. We have them all, car companies from around the globe, all available at one direct location. That is the AutoLooks.net website. The AutoLooks podcast is brought to you by Ecom Entertainment Group and distributed by Podbean.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us, send us an email over at email@autolooks.net. So for myself, Everett J, the owner, the curator, and operation of the AutoLooks.net website and the AutoLooks podcast, for myself, Ecom Entertainment Group, and Podbean.com, strap yourself in for this one fun, wild ride that the auto show market is going to take us on.